All right, so this is take 2 of recording a little video for Knailz, because apparently that entire time I recorded this entire video, I had my mic disconnected, so I need to sort that out. So yeah, Knailz, I thought I'd just make a quick video for you to go over the replay that you posted. Rather than making a wall of text, I find it'll be a little bit easier for me to just make a recording as quickly as possible to go over some of the things in the build that I think you can improve. So we're going to skip through the first sort of minute 30 of this. Everything you do in the first minute 30 is absolutely fine, no problem. The first issue that we have here is the use of the scouting probe. So to summarize what you do with the scouting probe, you go in, you go around the base, you make a big loop, which is fine. You scout the gases, but it seems like your priority here is getting as much damage on these SCVs as possible, which I know feels really good, but it doesn't really accomplish anything. He's happy to chase this probe around. The minerals that he's losing here is not a huge amount, especially because you've got your probe here. And you do end up trading for an SCV and losing the probe, which is better than getting nothing and losing the probe, but it's significantly worse than keeping the probe alive and seeing more information. So you do scout the factory, and you scout the timing of that factory, which is arguably good, but the thing that you don't see is, first of all, you don't keep the probe alive, and you don't see if he's got a natural or not. And so really this could have been some kind of proxy barracks, proxy factory, proxy anything, and you wouldn't have had any idea because you didn't scout the natural. So the first thing you want to see is if a natural goes down by about 150 at the latest. So what I want you to do instead with this probe is, especially if he would have walled this off, he could have stopped you from seeing anything whatsoever. What I want you to do with this probe is just queue it up to go in and go back and forth to see both these gases, then shift queue it out to block the natural here. If you do want to do any harassment, you want to block this natural. But crucially, you just need to see if this goes down by 150, and then you want to, by 150, you want to send this home, regardless of if you haven't seen it by 150, sort of maybe in lower leagues a little bit later than that. But if you haven't seen anything by 150, then you're going to play as though there's some sort of one base play going on. So you'd get a battery and you'd start a stalker and all this sort of stuff. So that's the first major thing. Just make sure that you're not losing this probe. Make sure that you get it out of the main base as soon as you've seen the gases, whether or not he's got 1 or 2 gases. If he's got 2 gases, obviously it could be it's going to be a one base play as well. And then go down here and then leave by 150. And the crucial thing is to scout that natural. All right, so that's fine. The next thing that we notice in this replay is the second gateway unit does not get built. So you see that you've just finished the adept. It's about 2 minutes 37, and I want you to just look at this gateway and see how long it takes for this gateway to start producing a second gateway unit. So 309. So there's about 30 seconds there where this is not building anything, and in the early game against Terran, that can be the difference between winning or losing the game, and it often will be when you start playing against better opponents. So you need to prioritize getting this gateway unit started as quickly as possible, as soon as the adept finishes building. It's more important than the second gateway. The second gateway isn't really going to do all that much for you this early, so you want to start that stalker as quickly as possible. And then further to that, you want to then start your Twilight and Robo as quickly as possible after that second gateway unit. So in this game, you've got now 150 minerals that you could be using to build tech. So that means that you could have had a stalker started, and you could have a Twilight started, and you could be very close to starting your Robo as well. And if you're not going to open with a sentry for the hallucinated scout, I would recommend that you get your Robo before you get your blink started. So that next 100 gas after the Twilight Council, you want to put into the Robo so that you can get that observer to scout the Terran base as quickly as possible. So we can see that you're floating. You have 200 gas now, and still no tech started. So this is about we would say like 30 seconds late. It's a whole 120 gas late for the Twilight, which means everything else in your build is going to be late, including your Robo. And then your Robo doesn't get started. Again, it could have been built straight away. Your Robo doesn't get started for ages, so till about 410 when you finally get your robo down. So this could have been about 30 seconds earlier, which means your observer could have been 30 seconds earlier, which can be the difference between hitting or seeing what he does or not seeing what he does. So that it really is crucial that you get, especially these first sort of 3 tech buildings as well, 2 tech buildings as quickly as possible, especially if you're not going for the hallucinated scout. Now, there's another major issue that I would point out in this build, which is that it seems to have no clear direction as to what you want to do. So typically against Terran, especially when you open Blink, you either want to go for a 2 or 3 gate fast third base build, or you want to go for, or you can go for a robo or something like that, or you want to go for the 4 gate Blink all in, like semi all in, where you're hitting as quickly as possible, and you are trying to do a significant damage to the Terran by making 4 gates with a lot of stalkers early. If you're going to do that, you wouldn't get your third until about 6 minutes. You'd actually delay that third a significant amount because you want to be putting all your resources in the direction of actually doing damage with that attack. You don't want to half attack and half do a 4 gate. You want to sort of decide one or the other. So if you're going to do that, you'd want to get your robo quicker, as I said, and then you'd want to do a probe cut to get your 3rd and 4th gateways by about 3 minutes 30. So we can see it's about right here is when we could build, and you actually have the minerals to build them. But instead, we wait until about 4 minutes. And so this means that there's a minimum 30-second delay in your build, which is going to be the difference between having 1 tank and having maybe 2 or 3 tanks, which is the difference between being able to do damage and doing absolutely no damage. So I'm not just nitpicking here. This is so crucial that your build is actually useless if you hit 30 seconds later. So what I would suggest is either do the 4 gate and sort of go on spawning tool, learn the build sort of exactly as it's meant to be done, or just do a more macro oriented build. Go for 3 gates instead of 4 and get your 3rd at a lot earlier, and just play a more defensive style. Spread your stalkers out, look at what you spot with your observer, and try and counter reactively whatever the Terran is doing, thinking kind of like a Zerg player, just defend whatever he does, and then do your big attack later on when you have more tech. But if you want to go for this 4 gate Blink, then get these a little bit faster, and then try and time everything up so that you're hitting at about 5 minutes with the Blink into the main. And I'll show you a build of how to do that. So this game sort of plays out with this build as you would expect, since you are hitting over a minute later than you'd need to be. So you'd want to be hitting, like blinking into his base by like 5 minutes. I can test that out in a minute, but on the same map with the same spawns and everything. But instead of hitting at about 5 minutes, you end up actually ready to blink into his base at about 6:37, like you're still waiting for a second blink, so about 6:40, which is nearly 2 minutes late. And by the time you get there, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks by the time you're ready to blink in. So there is no chance of you doing any damage now because this is too late. So you need, like when I say tighten up the build, it would not be that difficult for you to tighten this build up. Like you don't need to hit exactly at 5 minutes because you're not going to be playing against people who are playing perfectly either. But if you do want to do an attack like this, I would try and streamline it as much as possible. Okay, so if we look in this game, I can kind of predict what goes on from here because he's gone for 4-port Banshee. Now, he's only able to do this because you don't have enough stuff. You didn't hit him at a timing early enough to do any damage. If you had been doing a streamlined version of the 4-gate blink, I guarantee you that he would have just died. So this is what we talk about when you say just fucking kill him. This kind of build, this is not keeping him safe against a dedicated blink attack. The only reason he's able to do this against a dedicated blink attack is because your blink attack comes so late. Now, I get what he's doing. He's got a lot of tanks, right? And that's kind of scary. But he shouldn't have been able to get this out. So you want to be, if you're hitting a lot earlier, this is fine. The other thing is, if you get the observer in a lot faster, and actually you could have gotten the observer in if you had kept it a little safe from this turret, because these turrets aren't in particularly great spots. There's a huge blind spot here for you to go in with the observer. You still would have spotted this. A hallucination would have spotted this. Anything would have spotted this. And as soon as you see these 4 ports, then you can go, oh, 4-port Banshee. Okay, cool. I'll build Stargates and build Phoenix and get speed observers, and that'll be fine. So even that would be possible. The other thing you can do if you spot this is you can just take a lot of bases, because like there's no way that he's going to be able to actually move out with just tanks against someone who's open gateway units. But anything after this point, I would say, anything after like here in this replay is pointless to look at, because you haven't tightened up your build, you haven't scouted him, and so anything that he does could work because you have no idea what he does. So in this particular game, sure, he goes for 4-port Banshee with speed and cloak. I'm sure he does all those, and it's really, really annoying to deal with. And you can look at it and go, oh, how could I do this? But it is absolutely pointless, because he could have been going battle cruisers. He could have been going for 3 racks. He could have been going for Widowmine drop. All of those things would have killed you because you didn't actually respond to any of those things because you didn't scout at all. So that is really the main issue here. So I'll show you kind of a slightly tightened up. This isn't going to be perfect by any means, but I'll go through on the same map and just do a similar opener, but with a little bit more optimizations. You can make that terran, okay? And we'll quickly just show sort of how I would do this to tighten it up a little bit more. And again, what I would say for anyone who's really below GM, probably, like even I probably shouldn't be doing too much with the scouting probe, but you want to just simplify your mechanics as much as possible. I know it feels good to micro that probe and to kill an SCV, but you got to think, what are you actually trying to accomplish with the probe? And if you're losing the probe consistently, then chances are you're over microing it, and that is going to mean you're missing your tech. That's going to mean that you're missing gateway units, and these are all things that are way more important than potentially getting an SCV kill. Okay, so we're going to get that second gate. This is all fine so far. This is all exactly what you were doing. Maybe you had probably better placement of your buildings. I'm not really worried about that right now. We're just trying to get the build as tight as possible. Okay, so what we're going to do is just do a little loop like this. We're going to ignore this probe because he's on a nice little loop. And then we're going to build the cyber immediately. Then the Nexus. I mean, I'm not too focused on this because this is your build was more or less fine in terms of these things. It's just the scouting probe. Okay, start another probe. Get our second gas. Somehow I've missed a probe. I don't know what I've done, but I've missed a probe. Okay, I'll get that. Alright, so I should have sent this probe back at 150. That was a mistake. Alright, so I'm going to start the Stalker. There we go.
The firstborn shall persevere.
You can do whatever you want with this. I would suggest probably just keeping it closer to the minerals for now. Alright, we got the Stalker building. Alright, now we're looking at the gas, and we're going to build this Twilight as soon as we have the gas for it. There we go. There we go. Okay, now we're going to build our second gateway. Now we're going to build our robo at 100 gas. Rally it there. Now we'll start our blink. It'll be a little late. We won't start right away because we've used the gas to get that faster robo. That's absolutely fine. That's part of the build. Chrono that. Okay, now it's about 3:30. We're going to probe cut. Get 2 gates. Pylon. Get our observer. Chrono that. We're going to play defensively with our first 4 stalkers. Alright, now that our prism is on the way, I'm going to move out. Now our observer's going in, so we can see what he's doing. Observer's going in at around 4:30. So this is more than enough time to see whatever he's doing. Prism will come here. Nice big warp in. Now we're going to blink in as close to 5 minutes as possible. And he's probably just dead, right? So this is the version of your build where you're doing the 4-gate blink. It is really crucial that you try and hit as close to 5 minutes, like blinking into his base, as possible. And most of the time, you'll just kill them. If you don't kill them and you just do some damage, try and not over micro them too much. You're going to prioritize at about 6 minutes. You're going to get a 3rd base, your 2nd or your 4th gas, your robo bay, and macro out from there. After having made a bunch of stalkers to contain him as long as possible. But if you're not going to hit that timing and you kind of realize things have gone a bit wonky and you've, for whatever reason, you're not going to be able to hit that early, then I would say just take a fast 3rd and just play a macro game reactively until you can get your sort of like big mass gateway or 3 colossi or whatever it is you're going to do. So either do a macro game reactively with the fast 3rd or go for a really dedicated fast blink attack, but try not to do a mixture of the two. And again, the main thing in terms of scouting, I think for you, is going to be to get the observer as quickly as possible by going for the fastest possible robo after the twilight, or going for a sentry and a hallucinated scout. And that way you're going to scout the things that your opponent's doing, and you're going to be able to not be surprised by them. Turrets really should not keep you from scouting them this early in the game. If they're building turrets before 5 minutes, then you can probably just kill them with almost anything. Chances are they're building them much later, but your scouts are coming too late. So that would be the main thing I would work on. So hopefully I didn't confuse you too much. If you have any questions about that, do let me know. But I thought this would be a little bit easier than writing a text post. So if you have any questions, let me know. But good luck.